clapping. Get excited. Now for fun, let's triple it. Let's go for triple. All it takes is the intention to give a little more. Intention to give a little more. And that's what I found is the secret in my marriage. Now, I was married. I was a monk for 9 years, married for 2 years. That was the wrong woman, but we peacefully broke up. She then married some other guy, which broke my heart. Then after a year of healing my heart, and then I was teaching the heart seminar at that time to heal my heart, I found my soulmate, who actually, before I married the first woman, I tried to marry that woman. That's Bonnie. Bonnie and I were married for 34 years till she passed. She's my sweetheart. I grieved for 2 years, which I think was really good. And then I found another soulmate. This is, it was a little challenge for her because she knows, one, she knows how much I love my wife, which means this is a good guy. And two, she feels like, well, do you love me more or her more? A normal question, a sweet question. And I said, you are so lucky to meet me now because having grieved for 2 years the loss of the most amazing person in my life, my heart has grown. And as my heart has grown, you're the lucky recipient of more love. So that was a very good answer that came to me. So love is really the key. I see that, we all have I can't say all, but whenever I say all, it's not everybody, okay? But it's my experience of all the people I know. When they all fall in love, it's an amazing experience. It's an amazing experience. And then it goes away. And sometimes it'll come back, it goes away. Sometimes it comes back, it goes away. And for many couples, they kind of forget it. And I have developed tools that can help people rekindle that love. I haven't had the experience of helping people find that love who never had it before. Okay, so if you've been married to somebody you really never felt the love, maybe some people just aren't right for each other. We are energetically inclined to be attracted to certain people in certain ways, etc. So I can't change that. But what I do see is the institution of marriage is something I stand for. I'm thinking of Donald Trump right now. Fight. So I'm fighting for marriage. And that's part of this whole class, which is love, romance, and longevity. Longevity of being with your soulmate, being with a partner, being able to overcome the trials and tribulations that everybody experiences in marriage. Twice as many every marriage it's a standard thing. 50% of all marriages end in a divorce. But more importantly, the second marriage, it's 70% of the people who have a second marriage end in divorce. And the next one is the third marriage is 90% of those people end up. These are averages. So if you're in your third, it doesn't mean you're in a disaster zone, but you're at risk because our tendency when relationships, and let me say the even bigger statistic, 20 years ago, twice as many people were getting married. Okay, so that's a huge one, is that people are just not connecting enough in order to feel the trust and the confidence that I could live with this person the rest of my life and grow in love. The heart's not opening up wide enough to feel this is the one for me. All my friends said when I married my current wife, they said, "Why did you know?" I said, "My heart's wide open." When your heart is wide open, That's it. So many people say, "How do you know the right person?" Well, if you don't know, your heart's not wide open. When your heart is wide open, Now, when your heart is wide open, and you could be wrong. Okay, there's always that possibility because there's certain drugs that can open your heart. You can take, what are those drugs called? It's been so long for me. What's the one everybody's taking? Ecstasy. Okay, ecstasy. I never had to actually take ecstasy. I just was counseling some person the day after ecstasy, and because I'm a total empath, I was so high. That really feels great. And the person I was counseling, he's actually at that time, he was a good buddy of mine, Jack Canfield. Who knows Jack? He wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. We're like soul brothers. He'll say I'm the only person he wants to spend an island with. And then people say, what does his wife think about that? She says, John's the only person I want to spend an island with. Very sweet. We have a very sweet relationship. But before we were famous authors, we became the biggest selling authors of the decade of the 90s, and they continue on. With Jack and I were in a support group doing our manifestation techniques. I'm not talking about those techniques here, but some of my meditations on the Wednesday morning at SoulSearch, some of those are the manifestation meditations. And then, I'm doing this for me too. And there's one meditation we've done the last 3 times, which is just higher consciousness meditation. I'm just going to do that because it makes me feel so good. See, I'm always when I was 29 years, I was a monk for 9 years. My teacher was a quote enlightened master from India. And he proclaimed I was enlightened master at that time. And then I went out to do my work. And I worked hard at it, but I've been meditating since I was 2 years old. Okay, so when I was 5 years old, I dug a hole behind the garage just to sit in it. I didn't know I was meditating. I would just go into this wonderful, unlimited state. The first time I rode a horse, it galloped off at 9 years old. Another major enlightenment shift. But what I experience is everybody who works with the simple techniques that I teach, because I'm in that field, it's very easy to transmit that field to others, as with anybody in that field. When you talk to somebody who's just feeling really great, you feel really great. That's what it is. If you want to play tennis with a tennis pro, your game automatically improves. You want a good relationship, hang out with me. You might just like, I'm the guy. I have the knowledge. I don't want to brag too much. Easy to brag too much. But so many people are teaching relationships that aren't in relationships. I don't get, they're quoting me all the time, so that's okay. But if you can be in a class with me, you get transmission. So you will all go out with more love in your hearts today. And it doesn't last, okay? Just like every Wednesday I do our meditation, I'm always in a state of unboundedness. But because I've connected with all these people around the world, I am anchored in all around the world because I can feel all those people with me. And it's just, we all join together. So it's an amazing experience. And that's free. That's not what you're going to get today. But I get it. I just get to talk to you and have you hear me, and I get to be one with you. And this is a really nice field, these nice little rooms. This is about the size of most people's aura. It's a classroom size. And I can hold you easily inside of me, and you can receive as much as I can. I remember my biggest talk, I did the biggest arena in Australia, and I've done bigger ones, but they weren't all paying a lot of money. It's different when you just go to some event where people aren't paying for you. But when all those people were paying for me, Melbourne it was like something I never want to do again. I could not hold all those people in my awareness. They were just out there. I like to feel, I do this for me and I do it for the world. I feel the connection. So I want to let you know up front, besides this amazing class here, which is, I've never done this before, where I do online, online's a thing now. So we're going to do online. And I'm going to basically go over, if you go to the website, you'll see all the things that we're covering in that thing. Today, what I'm going to do is, in other classes here at SoulSearch, I've let there be a conversation with the audience. And unfortunately, what happens when I have a conversation with the audience, there's somebody with a lot of problems who wants to take up all the time. And, I don't want to dismiss them or anything. So I'm not going to take question and answers. I'm going to give you my best stuff, a little review of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. To me, is the foundation book for great relationships. Over, what is it now, almost 100 million people, probably 2, because it's in all these libraries and it was all these married couples and friends, have read that book and love it, because it just spreads. People say, how did you do that? I said, I just wrote a book and it spread like fire. And I just kept talking about it. But what I know to be the case, and I saw this with John Denver, is when John Denver, who remembers John Denver? Let me see my group here. We're all growing. So he was so beautiful, so amazing, and everything was great. And then he cheated on his wife. He started taking drugs. He went down, and all of his book sales stopped without people knowing he was cheating with his wife. They didn't know that. They didn't know he was doing all this drugs and all this stuff. They didn't know he was becoming egomaniac. His just energy. He was no longer authentically connected to his spirit. And I remember talking to him almost a week before he died on the plane. And he did this cleanse, and and he felt like he was coming back. And my experience with him was funny, which is, he said, "So you're the John Gray?" I said, "Yes, I have 35 books of yours. Everybody gives me your book." I said, "Have you read it?" "No." You can't give it to everybody. What can I say? You have to reach out, just knocking him on the door. But what I saw, and the point I'm making with him, is when he was no longer an embodiment of of his music, he was now disconnected to that. And sales went way down. Everything went down for the guy. And his music is amazing, but you need to, and after he died, because his soul is no longer encumbered by his big ego, more people started listening to his music, although it's not fully alive yet the way it used to be. So when people ask me, what's your marketing skill? I say authenticity and sharing your truth wherever you can go, but more importantly, living it. And not only as an author is that a great marketing strategy, but it's a strategy of life. The more authentically loving you are, compassionate, empathetic, and yet loving yourself, so you don't let people take advantage of you, kindness, forgiveness, and we can all learn those skills. And in order to learn anything, you have to go through trials. And if you know anything, you learn most by making mistakes. If you do everything perfectly, you're never going to learn how to do it even better. So you make mistakes, which is a bummer. It's painful for those of it that want to be really good. So we make mistakes, and then we learn from those mistakes. And every time we learn from a mistake, we align ourselves to knowledge. I don't want to do that anymore. Who are you aligning with at that? Well, if you believe in God, you're aligning yourself with God. That's why in the Christian tradition, big deal about sin. What's the deal with sin? Sin, sin, sin. But what happens with sin is, I did something bad. Now I recognize I did something bad. I repent. And I repent means I don't want to do that again. So at least in that moment of repenting and committing yourself to being different, you're aligning yourself with the divine energy of the universe. So to me, repent is repent, repent, repent. Although some of my clients don't like that word, that's okay. Right? We make mistakes and we need to be able to take it back. When I'm dealing with my children at times, I'll say something wrong, and because my kids are free to criticize me completely. They've never been punished by me. They've never been criticized by me. I strategically nurture them. Most people have no idea of how powerful that is. It takes advanced skills of communication, but my mother had them. I was the fifth boy. She had 7 children. The fifth boy, my mother said, "Now see what happened to the other 4 boys. One has this problem, one has this problem. This one has to go to military school. This one got..." Well, you followed my advice on how to raise Johnny. So my father said, "Okay, what is it? Don't punish him. He doesn't need to be punished. We're just going to put him in the hands of God." And so I was never punished growing up. I've never been punished. I have a whole freedom to express my thoughts and my ideas and so forth. Creativity magnifies to the extent you don't have fear in your life. And so many people have fear. And I won't say I had this blessed, perfect everything, because when you have 4 older brothers who discovered I don't get spanked with a belt. Now this sounds harsh, but this was normal stuff in Texas when I'm growing up. When you got in trouble, I'm going to tell your father, so if something happens, my mother would say, "Okay," or my father would say, "Come to my room." My mother would say, "Go to your father's room." He'd take out his belt, you'd bend over, and you get whipped. It was a scary thing to do. It was a normal thing to do. No one thought less of it. I came into this world thinking less of it. When I was in 1st grade, I can remember, I heard someone said, a girl in the other class, the teacher pulled her pants down and spanked her in front of the class. And my face turned red when I heard that. Now, I was the littlest kid in the class. And I remember getting up, outraged, like maybe more outraged than I've ever felt in my life when I heard that news. And I stormed out of the room to the principal's office, and the teacher said, "Now sit down." I'm not sitting down, I'm talking to the principal. And I can still clearly remember that power that came through me. Walking down the hallway, this little tiny guy, if I go now, it's a short hallway, little school, but I'm just going down to the principal's office, and I opened the door, and there's the secretary here, and I said, I want to talk to the principal. And I must have looked so adorable. She said, we have to wait. We can make an appointment for you. I said, I'm not waiting, and walked right into the principal's office. I told her about this. I'm sure she was greatly entertained by it. And I said, well, something has to be done about it. I said, well, we're going to look into this and do something. So, okay, I did my job. So I feel like I'm here as a part of my mission. You know, a lot of us are looking for a mission. What are we here for? Well, for me, it was pretty set up. You know, I'm here to protect women. That's what I do. So all my nooks do. After I've gained my enlightenment, and by the way, there's all kinds of enlightenment. This is just enlightenment my teacher had. I moved on from that and moved on to that, moved on to that. There's so many levels of enlightenment, but he had a beautiful picture of, he said, basically 5 years of regular meditation. We have cosmic consciousness. Now, cosmic consciousness is this amazing experience. If you practice a good meditation technique regularly, at a certain point, it just shifts and the boundaries of this room go away. Okay, just like you are unlimited. You can take a breath in from the edges of infinity. It's an amazing experience. And so that was so amazing. And if I think about it, I can have it right now. It's just I don't think about it. It's just there. Just like if you were cold and somebody gave you a warm jacket, you go, ooh, this is really a warm jacket. I really like this jacket. So I have to sort of take a moment to reflect on that. Occasionally I'll do that. Because the next step was God intoxication. This is called God consciousness. You see a lot of these saints, they look a little crazy. And they're just in love with everybody. Oh, I love you. I love you. They're not married, of course, but they love everybody. If they were to get married, they would quickly leave that state. As long as you have nobody mirroring, pointing out your mistakes or being disappointed with you or someone you're attached to, it's very easy to be in the audience. Oh, I love you all. I do. I love you all. Okay, just come on with me. Okay, so there's a boundary there. It's very free, and a lot of us think we're so loving because we're not in relationships, and it's very easy to be in denial. And one of the key things of denial is how do we stay in denial and not experience our suffering inside? Is addictions. Okay, so we all have these addictions that we do, either the addiction to procrastinate and not do what we say we're going to do or what we want to do, stay comfort zone, or we say, I want to lose weight. We don't lose weight. We start eating more. We say that, what are the other things we say? Those are the two basic ones. Procrastination is, and I want to be so loving. Oh, I have so many women clients. Because women are born to love. Love, it comes from women, not from men. Selflessness comes from men. Men, masculinity is that unboundedness. It is pure nothingness. If you look at all spiritual texts, there's two forces in the universe. There's the spiritual father love, the logos. It's no form. And then there's all form, and that's the female energy. That's why women are embodiments of beauty when they're healthy. And there's different body types. That doesn't mean if you don't look like the women in the magazine that you're not beautiful. But if you're not healthy, you're not beautiful. Or if you're angry inside, you can't be beautiful. If you're shut down, you can't be beautiful. Feminine energy is beautiful. And so I'll share a little experience I had. Ghost Light was a movie I saw. I highly recommend it. You have to pay $3 to stream it. But it's I hope I got the title right. Ghost Light. Somebody said, you got to see this show. And it's an amazing show about a man who loses his daughter and how he doesn't process it, and then how he gets to process it by joining an acting class. And, and how the wife goes through metamorphosis as he changes. But there's this one scene. I'm just going to explain to women why you're so beautiful when you're beautiful and why you're not when you're not. Okay. So she was really angry with her husband because he wouldn't talk, he wouldn't open up, he was in a bad mood all the time, and she was upset too. You know, they're all going through crazy. And you lose somebody, a child, you all go nuts in a family. And the child died. I don't want to tell you how the child died. It's the mystery of the movie. But they ended up all feeling guilty because of it. How they dealt with their guilt is different, but it's hugely stressful. And so she was trying to make him feel good by putting on something a little sexy and coming in to like offer her body for sex. You know, he's bad with, let me come and give you a kiss. And I'm like, please don't give me an R-rated sex scene here, please. I do not want to be having sex with these people. I was very judgmental too, but whoa, I don't want to be seeing this. Okay, so there was that scene. At the end of the movie, when their hearts were open and they did the same thing, I said, "Tell him, give me more, give me more." It was like she was so beautiful and he was so handsome, and had nothing to do with body type at all. It had to do with the energy that they were putting out. It was that connection. And that's more love in our heart, the more beautiful we are, and the biology. We're dealing with mind, body, and spirit. It all comes together. And at conferences like this, there's a lot of people into spirit, but they ignore their bodies. Okay, that's a big thing. Or they ignore their relationships. I've got my journey, I'm doing my thing, I don't need somebody else. That's not just here. It's a phenomenon that's gone up 10 times, I would say, since I've been doing this for 40 years, talking about gender differences. And what it is particularly men not willing to commit to a woman, and it's women not feeling like they need a man. Like, why do I need a man? And it's a good question. And it's like, and a guy wandering around, what's my purpose? Well, I'll tell you my purpose. When I used to have those feelings, I used to, with all this spirituality, and I wanted to mention that I didn't have this like perfect childhood either. My mother was amazing. My dad was wonderful. But because of the difference between me and my brothers, all they did were jealous of me and punished me. So I've gone through being thrown into fires, buried alive, thrown off of roofs, scars all over my head, concussions, blood flowing out. So it gets you somehow. No matter how good life gets, it gets you somehow. And this is why I love many of the spiritual teachings. It's karma. You can't change your karma. All you can change is how you react to your karma. That's it. There's so much predestination in our lives. It's just going to come. But let's say you stole $100 from somebody. Then suddenly somebody's going to steal $100 from me. But what if I have $1,000 in my bank account? Then losing that $100 is not going to be a big deal. That's what we're doing now, is generating good karma, creating more, but the past will come to us. So always when disasters happen in my life, here's one that happened a month ago. A major part of my income has been in a particular investment over 10 years. And all kinds of signs it's working along. And then my business partner, who was 10 years younger than me, dies. And everything's in his name. And it's in probate. And he didn't have trust. If you want to set a will, put it in a trust. Go to your accountant, get a lawyer, get a trust. Because now it will take 2 years before I can access 1% of what I'm owed. But that's okay. I'm glad to get that. It's just going to take 2 years to get it. So that was amazing. And one of the other speakers here, I was listening to her talk, and she was saying, and I'd never heard this concept, but it seemed pretty true to me. She said that every 7 years, your karma your emotional state will be what it was 7 years ago. Circumstances will change, but it takes 7 years for you to face those emotions again. 7 years to face those emotions again. So I did that little thing. I said, yeah, 7 years ago, my wife died, and I spent the whole year taking care of her, feeling like, how can I save my wife? How can I help her, and so forth? And then the devastation of not being able to save her life. And here I am, having created wellness seminars, writing a book on wellness and all these things. But I will say, she said I was her hero, her last moment. I said, I'm just so sorry, sweetie. She said, John, you're my hero. You did everything for me. And remember, I didn't do everything you suggested. Now she's on her own path, always, which I supported. I always support that. I made my offerings there. And I just look at it as, there's destiny. Things happen, they're gonna happen. All we can do is make it less painful or make it more joyful, how we react to it. And I have to say, she died of ovarian cancer, which can be horrible. And she was never in any pain, except, she couldn't eat. She kind of basically starved to death as her body turned to just bones, but she didn't get the bone pain and she didn't get all these pains. And I can remember the night before giving her a massage. I massaged her every day. I took care of her. And I was massaging her spine. And I said to her, honey, did you know you have scoliosis? She said, I didn't know that. What I felt when I was going down the spine, it had broken in half and had just had a little bit of tendon connecting it because I went over there. Whoa, we got a moving spine here. I think she just, when she died, it was because she sat up and it just made that little twist and she was gone. But to be able to do all the natural things that I could do, could take away the pain and bring in, I think she felt more love in her life than she'd ever felt, and more love from me. She saw me stop my career. She saw me give up everything just to nurse her, take care of her, and research for her. So life is never perfect the way we think it should be, but life is the way it should be, to teach us lessons. Now, whether we learn those lessons or not, when you don't learn a lesson, when you don't repent, when you don't realize, okay, I'm not a victim here. I have been victimized. Maybe I've been poisoned, but how am I gonna react to that poison? That's what we have control over. It's gonna come at you. It's happening. It's gonna happen. So that's where, just go with the flow, but don't just go with the flow. When something happens, how could I have prevented this? How did I create this? How did I contribute to this? And let me try doing something differently now. It's always that commitment to doing something differently. That little shift was how I created Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus concept and whole idea. Why it's part of my mission is to teach that message. On my honeymoon with Bonnie, my soulmate, got a call. My father was dead. Now, we just said goodbye to him a few days before. What happened? He was healthy. I had a great relationship with him. And they said, how did he die? How did he die? Well, you have to come and find out. So, no, how did he die? He was found dead in the trunk of his car. And talk about cosmic things here. When my last conversation I had with my dad, he was giving my wife Bonnie a tour of the poor part of town. My dad was always helping the poor people. They created a trust for him, a foundation honoring him, because he started all the football teams, the basketball teams. He bought all the equipment for them. He would coach them. And so he was driving us through this poor neighborhood of Houston, Texas, like a poor neighborhood. And in that conversation with him, we're very proud. This is what I did. You would think, why does my body's thinking, why is he driving us to this ghetto neighborhood? Okay, so anyway, and I said while driving around, or he's driving me, I forget. I said, now, Dad, I'm grown up now. I want to give you some advice. He said, what's that? I said, everyone tells me that you're picking up hitchhikers. He says, yes, I like to do that. And I said, well, it's no longer safe to pick up hitchhikers in Texas, so you shouldn't do that. And my dad says to me, John, other men my age, when they retire, they go on safari. I pick up hitchhikers and I take them where they want to go. I learn about them and I help them. You see, ultimately, to be a man and feel good about yourself, you have to always be helping people. That's masculinity. If you're in your masculine energy, you're helping. And if you're depressed, you're not helping. Any depressed man has just put off doing what you can do to help other people. It's a real simple thing. And why do women get depressed? Not because they're not helping people. You get depressed by too much helping people. It's surprising because all the books say, oh, if you give, you will give back. And giving is the reward. Yes, giving back is the reward for women. Giving selflessly, but looking for a goal, is the reward for men. It's not like I just come and give. I give because for a lot of reasons. But one is I want you to take my class. I want your lives to be better. And I enjoy doing it. So that's my female side. We have a male side and a female side. Whenever you're doing something you like, something you enjoy, or when somebody's helping you, you're making female hormones. And whenever you're stressed, you're not making female hormones. That is biology. Now, that's what I didn't know when I wrote Men Are From Mars. All I knew was being a man, being married to a woman, having relationships, counseling people, listening to what they have to say. And I am clairsentient, if people know what that means. So when somebody comes to me with a problem, they always have the answer. See, all the answers are always, God gives us the answers, or higher self gives you the answers. Everybody's got the answers. But when you're not listening, then I hear. So it's like, where do these ideas come from that I wrote in my books? People give me a problem. In the beginning, I'd be like, I don't know how to solve this. And then suddenly I would hear, the answer. They get a download right then. This is what they have to do. And every one of my tools, every one of my techniques are the downloads that I heard that would answer people's problems. And then I wrote this book, Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus, which is 10 of the most universal downloads I got. And I'll explain those. We'll get a little review of that. But how did I even come across that? Well, my dad, he's found dead in the trunk of his car. It was on my honeymoon. So we got on a plane right away. Again, what a honeymoon, right? It's like, that's my life. Dramas happen, then we grow from it. So we went down to Houston together, and we went right out to where the car was, where the police had found the car. What had happened is my dad had picked up a hitchhiker and given him money, and he was happy to do that. You know, he'd just gotten some money to go do an adventure. And he picked up a hitchhiker, and evidently a hitchhiker took the money and had my dad get out of the car and get into the trunk. There was no violence. And he closed the trunk lid over him. Okay? That was it. Couldn't get out of the trunk. And that year, now you have these releases in the trunk, but we didn't have them in those days. So he's in the trunk. Now, there we are with the family. We're looking at the trunk. We're looking at where my father was found. My mother had called the police 4 times. My mother had called the police around 4 o'clock saying, where's my husband? Describe the car. And they said, yes, we've had 3 calls describing that car. And they didn't go. So that made me angry too. Well, I have an issue always with police. I mean, who doesn't, right? So I'm rather pissed off about that. But anyway, put that to the side. I was still traumatically involved with my dad's death. So I went and I looked in the trunk. We're all there with my family, 7 children, my mother. And I said, I'm going to get in the trunk because I need to know what Daddy went through. And that's just who I am. I'm an empath, you know, and you imagine it being terrible. I'm claustrophobic. He was claustrophobic. After the whole thing, my mother told me this is so amazing synchronicity, because when your father, 15 years ago or something like that, when he bought that car, there was a leak in the trunk. And he got into the trunk, and he had a man that helped for the yard, or one of his assistants, I don't know, and had a man that worked for him, closed the lid over him. And he said, if I need to get out, let me out right away. So my dad got into the trunk, and the guy was going to pour water so he could see where the water's coming in. And then they felt the claustrophobia. Has anybody had claustrophobia? Do you know what that is? I mean, it's just like, for some people, it's like, whoa, you know, it's pretty potent stuff. So he gets in there, the lid goes down. I want out, you know, so let me out. So he's in the trunk, and the guy is now trying to unlock the trunk. Now, this was an older model where you had to turn the knob in order to push the button. He said, my father said, turn the knob and push the button. We turned it the wrong way and tried to push the button. He says, it's locked. So we'll go get my wife. My mother came and let him out of the trunk. She said, my dad was white in the face. And she told me, she says, and what he said was, that would be the worst way to die. Now, the irony of this is when he got into the trunk, I got to retrace his movements. I saw where he'd unscrewed the back light for air. You know, it's hot. The way he died in the trunk was called heat asphyxiation. Just the hot sun of Texas, because the police didn't come in time. He just went to sleep. And the good news for me was that heat asphyxiation is not painful at all. It's just hot and you feel tired and you go to sleep. So he died in his sleep. But before that, and I didn't know that at the time, I just knew that I had to get in that trunk. But it wasn't completely closed. They closed the trunk, but he had already opened this little window. And for people who have claustrophobia, sometimes that's the key, is just have one little opening, or just knowing you can get out. But at least he had that opening. And he pulled a screwdriver. I was lying down, unscrewed it, pulled it back. And without thinking, what I did while I was in the trunk, trying to experience what my dad went through, I just pulled it back further. And I mindlessly put my arm out like that. You know, I'm a guy. You see a hole, you feel it. So put your arm out. Arm coming back. My brother on the outside of the trunk says, John, see if you can reach around and push the button. So this is like a Greek tragedy, right? This is like, if only he had thought of that. So, and then the lid opened up. I made that. See, part of how you heal a wound is you learn from it and you make a commitment from it. And so what did I learn from that experience as I'm grieving that? So many people are trying to get out of their trunks. And what they need is somebody on the outside to say, reach around and push the button. And that resonated with me because that's my commitment to life, is helping people open that trunk. Not to get out, but to let love in. See, we're all trying to get out. The reason he didn't think about getting in, because he was thinking about going out. So I'm not like telling everybody to go through catharsis and throw everything out, although there's some value to that for beginners. There's no question about it. You're completely shut down, take a bat and beat and yell and scream. Okay, then you sort of get in touch. But you never want to be dependent upon yelling and screaming to get what you want. Because then when you don't have what you want, what do? You have to yell and scream. It's the same concept as war and peace. They always say we have this war to create lasting peace, right? World War II was the war to create lasting peace, to end all wars. And yet what we had? One war after another. Because if your goal is peace and the way to get to peace is through war, then to maintain peace, you have to keep creating war. We have to find a way to create peace without creating war. And that will never be discovered until little children grow up in a family where mom and dad have learned to create peace without having to argue and fight over and over until they get a divorce. And that's what my commitment is. And that was my commitment with my dad when he was there. And so I'm going to commit myself to helping people look inside the trunk. And another way I looked at that is look at everything from the opposite point of view. That became sort of my internal process of, well, what do I think this woman needs or what she should do as a man thinking that? Let me think the opposite. And if a woman has a thought about a man, what if we looked at it the opposite way? Because it's a very simple, it's not always exactly that way. But I got that gift from my father's death. And I developed the idea that men and women see the world as complements, seeing it oppositely. And we want to do is bring those opposites together in harmony. And then now we have a talk today on romance and immortality, or not immortality, but longevity. Because love is one thing, but people often fall out of love. And when the romance goes away in our modern world, because they expect and they want that romance to last, they feel disappointed, they feel discouraged, they feel they're missing out. Now amplify that when you have teachers like me out in the world saying you can have lasting love. I'm having great sex at 73 years old. Too bad you don't. I feel great. I'm perfect. So people like me also could create divorce in that way. But it's not just me. It's the real thing. It's social media. It looks like everybody's in a happy marriage and a happy family in social media. Or if they're single, it looks like every single person is happy and having a great time. What we know is I'll just go some statistics. I don't want to dwell on it, but I remember I was giving a presentation at a medical conference down in Brazil. All these doctors are there reporting statistics. 95% of Brazilian women in Sao Paulo, I think that's the city there, it's 95% of the women all take sleeping pills, these heavy-duty, unhealthy sleeping pills for you. We're not talking melatonin, we're talking knockout drugs. 95% of women can't sleep. Now, why can't they sleep? Why is their mind so busy? And yes, women's brains will always be busy. There's no question about it. That's how we're different. Harvard did a study on males. Say relax. After a day of work, sit there and relax. Women, sit here and relax. Put all that stuff on their head. When they say relax, what happens to a woman's brain? It becomes busier. And what is she thinking? Okay, what are you thinking? She's thinking about all the things she's not doing while she's sitting here doing that experiment. Now you ask the men, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Nothing. And literally, there's hardly any activity in many parts of the brain. Just gone. When you're saying, what are you feeling to your husband? Nothing. You think you must be lying. You have some secret. You're cheating on me. You're hiding. Or you're mad at me. I wasn't mad at you, but now I am because you keep probing me. Just back off, will you? I just need to forget everything. So a simple concept from Men Are From Mars is that one of the ways men process stress effectively, not all men today do, So back when I wrote it, most men would relate to this, but today not all men even know their superpower. My superpower is I can have, well, I've got creditors, all of Rainey's creditors are sending me, that's my ex-partner, lawsuits. We're talking $1 million lawsuits. And bills have to be paid, people we promise money to. And I feel bad, these people need to get paid their money. I can't access any of the money of the company for 2 years. The probate case, the legal system is insane. If you don't have your will and a trust, they can tie it up for years. Every little thing you do, you have to ask the judge. And then we asked the judge. We had to wait 6 weeks to even assign somebody to be the person in charge of it. And then that person said, this is too crazy. So then we had to go to another 6 weeks just to assign another person. And then another 6 weeks for the judge to assign that person. Now, this is what it was. This one is, he says, I don't want to be the executor. Okay, we're going to say, we're going to set another appointment where you're no longer going to be the executor. Couldn't you have done it then? Oh no, we have to wait. And then we're going to go another 6 weeks in order to assign an executor. And then once you have the executor, every single thing they do has to be approved by the judge. And because these guys have so many lawsuits, assets, oh, we're not going to sell anything. We're not going to do anything. We have a big company. It's dying now unless I get loans to make it happen. So that's all happening. That's a stressful time. 7 years ago, it was stressful. My wife died. The next 7 years is going to take. But I have perfected being a male. I go, okay, what can I do today? Can't do this, can't do this. What can I do today? That's all. At the end of the day, now forget it, because there's nothing more I can do. And that's what men have the ability. No woman has that ability. You can't even develop that ability. It's not within your range of functioning. And if you did have that ability, you would never be able to have children. You would never be able to experience happiness. You would never be able to experience love, because love comes with a busy brain. If you have love, that means what is love for? To nurture children. Your bodies can make babies. Whether you choose to or not, you have a set of hormones to make babies. And that means your brain cannot turn off. When you have a little person that you're responsible for, you have to be on all the time. You can't just shut down. You can't just forget it. You can't just go watch the news and forget all the, hey, kids, go have fun. No, you're on all the time. 24 hours, a woman's brain is on. We check out when the sun sets. Unless we're doing video games and whatever, inhibiting our brain from being able to check out. So if you look at what the historical thing we did for men, historically, in many, many cultures, they learned to meditate. Now, not that, because women on their male side now, meditation can be very helpful for them too. But then what helps them bring up their female side is dancing. How many of you dance? Just curious. Yeah. Dancing is like one of the biggest female estrogen stimulators. Singing, who sings? Nobody. I try. My kids won't let me. Chanting, the chanting, singing, vocal. And guess what? If you're not a singer and you're not dancing all the time, talking. Talking is another form of singing. And more powerfully, singing is always uplifting things. But for reality to be grounded in the earth, to where you can make things work, where you can get pregnant, you can raise children, you have unlimited energy, you attract money to you. All these things for women is coming down into the body. Now, I see a lot of channels out there struggling to have money in their life. They're way up here. You can't attract money in your life. I mean, I am the most, don't brag, John. Pretty cool. Guess what? I had a Broadway show. It was the most successful financial Broadway show in history. I could only do it for 8 days. It was too hard work. I don't need to do that. That's a crazy job. And the reason it was most successful financially is I sold it out. It was the biggest theater, and I had no set. They were so, New York Times, they're all offended at me. They're all mad at me. How dare you not have a set? We're Broadway. I said, I'm the set. Why? I don't need that. Because then if everybody's looking at my set, they're not looking at me. If you're looking at me, you get me. So, although I do think it'd be wonderful when people have these slideshows and everything, but I'm just old fashioned. I know I want you to have a piece of me. I just want to resonate with you, not with what's on a screen, which is also what's destroying marriages. When a man resonates his sexual arousal with a screen, his arousal for his partner is diminished. That's why monogamy is so, so important. And if you want to keep romance in a relationship, men and women both, but more so men, need to be very clear about the energy of you're my only partner I have sex with. It's very, very important. We've gotten all loose on that. Then there's all these polyamorous people talking about it. And then you got the guys who are always just having sex one after another. And now they're 45 years old. They never got married. They're never going to have a family. You know, you wake up around 50 or 60 and you go, what have I done with my life? Not that everybody has to have children. You can have people, little people you adopt or people you can help. A dog helps. You know, in my neighborhood, every woman has a dog because they're all lawyers, okay? And they're not getting any affection from their husbands who are all investors and lawyers and whatever. And guess what they do? Because they're so bored in their sex life, is they do fundraisers for the school, for the children's school, the elementary school. Because once they start having children, they make a child and there's nothing left. They play a game called a key party. Do you know what a key party is? A key party, you have a basket and you have only certain people invited to this fundraiser. You pay a lot of money to go to the fundraiser for the school. It's a good cause. Put your keys, the men put their keys in the basket, and then the women pull out keys and they go have sex that night. That's a key party. You don't have no idea what goes on in this world. You have no idea how many people are strung out on cocaine. You know, none of my clients are on cocaine. They don't come to me because they probably think I'll judge them for it. I'll pity them, but I won't judge them. Another friend therapist, he says, there's not one person that I have that isn't hooked on cocaine. And they're not, and they have to have cocaine just to have sex. Or then they came on with Viagra. They have to use Viagra. What is it, like almost half the men over 40 have to use Viagra, and by 50, they don't care about sex. This is what's going on in the world today. Now, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. I'm in my 70s, 73, and my friends are all in the 70s. They don't get erections. I said, hey, let's take my class. You can learn how to get your energy back, have great sex. It's part of life. And I said, it's too much struggle. I'm not bothered to bother. And that's what their sex life looks like. Instead of like, wow, am I lucky to have this? This is so amazing. And it's like, what do you want to do? And you can sense when you speak to me, an innocent child. I'm very childlike. I can actually look like a little child very easily. I have a picture of me when I was a little child. And I was sort of in a meditative state like this, I would just go down like this. I could do that, completely be that child. I also can be a teenager. I also am a monk. I'm also a happily married man. I'm also a very successful businessman. I have all those ages in me. That's what relationships can do for us, is anchor us into our heart. You know, one time, I've taught so many classes over the years, but this is one of my 7-day classes. And I used to have a wellness ranch and everything. But I have people, well, here's just one exercise in it, is to just reflect on we can do this together. It's not a big deal, but reflect on who you were 10 years ago. So maybe just close your eyes, take a deep breath. Another deep, relaxing breath. I get going here, so let's relax into the energy of the room. And go back 7 or 10 years, and just who were you at that time? That's you. But your view of the world and what you think is different. That's the changing part of you. The part of you that's still you 10 years ago. Now go back 10 years before that. What were you doing then? What were you thinking then? What was your body like then? How are you different now than you were then? But what's the part of you that's the same, that's still you? That's your soul. You don't change, but your mind changes, your body changes, your motivations change. Now go back even 10 years before that. Some of you'll be in heaven soon, but that's okay. For some of us older ones, we could go back further. I mean, I love going back. It's just like, who is that person? But that's me. Try to find yourself in that person. That's your soul. Now go all the way back to when you're in elementary school. Just see who you were walking in the classroom. What were your concerns? What were your worries? What was important to you? Feel the joyful, vulnerable part of you. Recall a time when you were happy. Maybe you won something. Somebody liked you. Oh my God, something popped into my head just now. I remember I was in 7th grade, a big social time. There was a party, and I was late to the party. I thought, oh, I can't go. And I was crying. I'm late. I can't go. My mother's so wise. She called the party and said, is everybody there yet? They said, no. Is Johnny still can come? They said, yes. So I got on my motorcycle and drove to the party, and they were all bored. And when I came into the party, everybody ran at me. Yay, Johnny's here. Johnny's here. I didn't know why, but the music that was playing at that time was a Beatles song, which is Got to Get You in My Life. All I have to do is play that song, Got to Get You in My Life, and suddenly I'm there. That's why music is so good. It anchors us into who we were at those times. That's your soul. Very different from who you are now, but also the same. Since this is soul search, I thought we would do that little exercise. So it's a very sweet thing. That's who you are. And maybe right now with your eyes closed, you go back to that little teenager, that little child, at a time when you were happy, a time when something good happened. Maybe for many of us Christian, the Christmas presents. It's so exciting to see the presents under the tree. Go back to that time. And I want you to give yourself a hug. Just put your arms around your body like this. And I want you to hold that child and say, you deserve to be happy. Just in your heart, talking to that child, you deserve to be happy. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I love you. I love you. I will always be here for you. I will always be here for you. And feel in your heart something you want to say to that child. What came up for me? It's going to be a rough road, but it always gets better and better. It's all going to get better and better. And I'm always going to be by your side. So now you've given yourself a little gift, a little message. Give yourself a tight hug, and we'll come back into the room. Such a sweet, we are all beings of love. Now, little boys are also beings of love, but as they get older, they're not as much. Okay, they're not as much. I always look at biology. A little boy has the female hormones of a little girl. There's no difference. For the first 2 years of life, a little boy has the testosterone levels of a grown man, and then they drop way down. And his estrogen levels, the female hormones, are the same as a little girl. His brain has been changed. So little boys will always generally will play with things, and girls will play with their dolls, and people, and food, and the natural things, nurturing things. So females are naturally nurturing, they're cooperative, they always want to help the little ones, generally speaking. The boys, the little ones have to get their way in. We're all struggling, competing to get to the top. I want this and I want that, wrestling around and all that. Girls start to talk and all that stuff. They wrestle with their words. You're designed not to forget your problems. You're designed as women to talk about your problems. This is the most powerful estrogen stimulator that there is talking about your problems. Because talking about a problem, if you have some guidance with it, allows you to feel your emotions. So, oh, I was late today. Oh, it was scary, or it was so frustrating, or somebody was stuck in front of me the whole time. I was so angry. See, those emotions, whatever you feel an emotion, if you're a woman, positive or negative, when you feel an emotion, your female hormones go up. When a man feels an emotion, his female hormones go up. So that's a problem for men, unless he has really high testosterone. See, if he has really high testosterone, that means he's detached. He's not had no emotion. So I am detached. The spaciousness is the Buddha state, is nirvana state. By the way, after I was in God consciousness, I had all these girlfriends, and all I wanted to do, I felt like I was God's gift to women. Just travel around and interview them about what they like in sex, and provide that for them, and move on to the next. And the other side of it was I had no money, so all I had was an old car, and my parents would give me a gasoline credit card, so I could get to houses. I just couldn't feed myself, so they would cook for me, and I would love them in a nice way. I first start off by reading their poem. First you get touch, contact, then you listen. And then once you listen and you're safe, and it's not that easy for all guys. It was a little easier for me because I had just left the TM movement. And that movement in the 3,600 centers, they had my picture and my brain chemistry, brain waves. And I was the big head guru's personal assistant, #1 student, acknowledged as enlightened. And everybody freaked out then when I left. It's kind of like, why would you leave this great guy? Because I found my way. But I had no idea what I was going to do. All I knew was I hadn't had sex in 9 years, nor had sex with myself. So women look pretty good. So that I started making love. And I created something. My first seminar I taught was called Enlightened Sexuality. And I still teach it. And the glimpse of it, it will be part of this 6-week course, Enlightened Sexuality, is recognizing that making love doesn't have to be this quick 5-minute thing of intercourse. For many people, on the average, it's a 5-minute intercourse. And often over time, men stop using the foreplay and they just sort of get right to it. There's no way her body can generate the estrogen necessary. It literally has to double due to foreplay interactions and has to already be at its normal level from outside the bedroom. So we're talking about happy woman, then goes into the bedroom, then understanding her role in sex and his role in sex. And there's certain roles that you can reverse them too, but you have to start out generating enough estrogen for a woman to actually want sex. Now, you can intellectually want it. That's what all these women come to me. Oh, my husband's no longer wanting sex with me. I want sex. No, what you want him is to feel the way he felt when he used to want sex with you. That's called desire, motivation, wanting to please you. Well, guess what? When you don't have a good sex life, that goes away in a man. You can bring it back with my skills. But that I teach, these are like basic, what I call biohacks. Things women can do to bump men's testosterone up, things women can do to bump a man's estrogen levels up. And that's foreplay. And that's what you can do outside the bedroom, what you do inside the bedroom. It's one of the basic core principles of the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, is I just listened to what are women's #1 complaints? What are men's #1 complaints? And what time is it? Okay, time's up. But I'll go a little over. They gave me a little time for that here. So what are those 3 complaints? That's the basic thing. Women will say, men don't listen. They don't listen. Now, we would say, of course we listen. What are you talking about? You're complaining to me, and now you're complaining I'm not listening. What are you talking about? He's not listening the way she needs. He doesn't know what she needs because he's not a woman. He's totally into logic and solving problems. So she's into sharing. She literally has to share. In some cases, if she's stressed, when she's stressed, she has to share problems. Now, if she doesn't know how to share problems with emotion, she could go on for days, for the rest of her life. When you share problems with emotion and somebody feels your emotion, then you produce massive amounts of estrogen. Your stress goes away, which is why, as a therapist, I do couples counseling, and then I'm also doing therapy. And as part of my couples counseling, I'm people dating counseling, is primarily helping women to learn how to, without a man, learn how to raise your estrogen levels up, and then how to use him to raise them even higher. That's why if you look at therapy and you look at counseling, separate from coaching, counseling, 90% of the people who go to counselors, where usually women are just talking, or the person is just talking, 95% are women, or 90%, one of them. Why? Because women get a huge benefit out of just being able to share what they're feeling with someone they're not trying to change. Now, they're not aware of that. They just know, John listens better than my husband. Why? Okay. Then I have to explain to her why. Well, you're sharing your problems, which we men hear as complaining. And you're not complaining about me. I can hear you. If you start complaining about me, I think you need a new therapist. I can't give you that full empathy. I can't just step into you if you're rejecting me. That's what happens in relationships, is women need to complain or share their problems, and they focus on sharing their problem with him. When you share your problems with a man, first of all, your estrogen levels don't go up that much because you're on your male side. When you're on your male side, you're trying to affect change in the world. When you're on your female side, you're looking at your receptivity, how I'm responding to the world. So what are the ways to respond to the world? Frustration or ease and comfort. Frustration, disappointment or happiness. Fear or gratitude. These are all emotions that produce estrogen. It doesn't matter whether it's a negative emotion or a positive emotion, it produces estrogen. But if you share an emotion with the intention to change somebody with it, I'm so angry you stepped on my foot. And this is the 5th time you've done it. What's wrong with you? What you did is you got a little squirt of estrogen, so it feels good to do that. You love to do that, don't you? Feels good. Feels good. Or why do you keep doing it? Okay, so with those that do, which is quite often. So when you're complaining about your partner, you're doing it with the intent to change them. Anytime you do anything with the intent to change somebody, you're on your masculine side. You're not making female hormones as much. You're making male hormones. Nothing wrong with that, except that if you're stressed as a woman, what do you need? More estrogen. And you can sometimes just think happy thoughts. You know, what was that movie? Think Happy Thoughts. That the nanny, the Disney nanny. What's her name? Mary Poppins. Think lovely thoughts. You know, it's good to do that. But if you're just putting whipped cream on a bunch of negative thoughts, they don't go away. And when you have repressed negativity, if you don't feel it and let it go, the universe comes at you to make you feel that. And the more you ignore your negative feelings inside, the louder the universe has to pound on your door in order to give you the gift of something to help you. Free therapy. So when this happened to my partner who lost all my money, not all, but lost all this money, that's the universe giving a little knock. John, you need to look at some feelings going on inside. It's time for you to process these feelings. And they have a chance to come up. And that's how I look at it. I don't go, oh, this terrible thing that happened. I go, this terrible thing that happened is good for me. I like that. Somebody singing happy birthday to me. Okay, so that's my birth. Which brings it all back to your whole life. I used to do these seminars on birth trauma. Your whole destiny is in your birth trauma. Okay, everything around your birth repeats again and again and again. All we can do is be conscious and aware is when it repeats, to learn a lesson, heal ourselves through love, through forgiveness, through kindness, through helping, and for women, how to get help. Always how to ask. And that in this class, a whole evening is going to be spent on all the ways women think they're asking and they're not. All the ways women could ask and how to ask a man to do things. To have him do it. There's an art to it. And women are not taught that art because you didn't see your mother doing it. Unless you just had a great dad, he automatically did it. And the truth is, in past generations, depending on how far back you go, women didn't have to ask for much more because they already picked a man who had a job. And so that was the most important thing, and had a good temperament. He didn't yell and scream. That's masculinity. Masculinity does not yell and scream. Masculinity does not cry unless the problem is huge. And a good what is it? The saying from China, one of my favorite sayings I've taught in China for years as well. A man does not, children should cry, absolutely. A man should not cry unless his heart is broken. Unless his heart has to be a big thing. And then that means I feel totally powerless. I can't change what happened. In that case, he's thrust way over to his female side in grief. And then he needs to talk about his feelings. And there's a way and a time to do that. We missed it all in our society. We've made men and women the same. We treat men like, oh, you're supposed to all talk about how you feel, not knowing that when a man is ever depressed or anxious, anxiety, depression, lack of motivation, it's all It's all simultaneously. You'll see in the body, his testosterone levels are low, his estrogen levels are high. Now, does it make any sense to raise his estrogen levels more? No. Whenever a man has anxiety, his testosterone is low, his estrogen is high. One of the major causes of anxiety in males today is they do porn. Porn lowers testosterone every time. Porn drops it down, and it feels so good, your estrogen goes way up. All that fantasy. I mean, sex therapists, I'm a sex therapist as well. They say the stupidest stuff. Husband can't get it up with his wife. Oh, watch porn and think about that woman. It's the only reason he can't get it out. One of the reasons he can't get it. He's not committed to his wife. See what happens? This is now biology. I'm going to end with this. I said I promise you longevity. 2 things for longevity. 1, everybody knows. If you're not your ideal weight, you're going to die sooner. If you're not your ideal weight, you're not going to have lasting passion. You have to be able to lower stress in your body. This is a whole course on how through behaviors you can raise estrogen if you're a woman and progesterone at different times of your month when you're cycling, and then after that what you do. I'll explain all that in this course. Then for the men who are having a crisis, the average 20-year-old guy today has 20% less testosterone than 20 years ago. My testosterone levels are 50% higher than when I was a young man, way higher. In my 70s, how's that happen? Your average man, it goes down. Why does it go down? They're not having regular great sex. They don't know how to provide that to their partner. And when I say great sex, I mean enlightened sexuality. Enlightened sexuality is with a partner you're committed to, 1. And the purpose of sex is only so that the man can feel the love in his heart more. Because every man knows that when you're having sex, it's like ice cream. You feel really good. But it's not ice cream if you're in a committed relationship. Yeah, I'll produce huge amounts of estrogen eating ice cream. Feels good. Anytime something feels good, you're making female hormones. So yeah, sex feels really good, but it's no different than eating ice cream. Being in a committed relationship, a person you're devoted to, you're committed to, you've had problems with, you've forgiven them, you've grown, you've built those muscles by going through the challenges of a relationship and the temptations around you, and you stick with your partner. There's power in that. And the power is proven in a certain hormone called prolactin. It's the immortality hormone, the longevity hormone. It's the secret why some of these masters throughout China and India, and look in the Bible where people live 700 years, 800 years, 300 years. What were they doing? They were doing these secret sex practices, and it's so simple. It's basically being committed to one woman, 1, 2, providing orgasmic pleasure for her every time. Now, there's no pressure on her to have an orgasm, which is sort of paradoxical. The only way you can get to that place is for her to give up attachment to her clitoris. See, women have climaxes. They just deplete their sex energy. Of a clitoral climax depletes your sex energy. Enough with the clitoris stimulates male hormones, just like the penis stimulates male hormones and female hormones. So there's a whole difference between a vaginal orgasm and a clitoral orgasm. And now we've become all addicted. Now you got the robots doing it. This is like the worst thing ever is use a robot. Just like the worst thing for a male is to do it with a porn online. This is so anti-biology. It's what happens is male's testosterone goes down, their estrogen levels go up, they're whiny, they're complaining, they lose motivation, they're irritable, they get angry, they get dissatisfied. How dare you treat me like a second-class citizen? Every wife's going to treat your husband like a second-class citizen occasionally, and it's normal. She's going to, why didn't you bring your shoes? Why didn't you put your shoes away? It's a natural thing. Ideally, she can evolve beyond that, but it's going to happen. So I have to be big enough to go, she's having a bad day. Tell me about your day. What's going on? Or maybe she makes me really angry. Instead of like talking, I say, look, I need to think about this. Let's sit down together, not look at each other. And I'm just going to hold your hand. I want you to know I love you, even though secretly inside, I'm pissed off at you. But I'm also love you. And it's grounded in your body. No arguments and fights. Just stop talking. The worst thing you can do is talk when you're upset. If a man talks when he's upset, what's causing him to be upset on a biological level? His estrogen's too high. Every time a man's angry, his estrogen is surging, his testosterone's going down. Think of the masters. They're cool, calm, and collected. They're untouched. They're completely detached. I am completely detached, but I'm also empathetic. To be detached does not mean indifferent. Jerks are indifferent. Oh, screw that. I don't care about that. No, to be present for someone, everybody's talking about it, they don't know how to do it because there's biology involved. If you're a guy and you just talk about your feelings all the time, there's no way you can have that kind of detachment. And then he starts to get a little angry. What does the woman do? What are you feeling? Talk to me. You have to. Is it this? Is it that? I know you're feeling something. Well, he'll start feeling something. Annoyance that you keep bugging him. Men need space. The number one idea in Men Are From Mars is the cave time. Men have to have distance. Distance creates space. Space creates testosterone. Connection creates estrogen. Now, I don't want to not have estrogen. Of course, I want estrogen. Also, for a man to have an erection, he has to have a lot of testosterone and then estrogen. It takes a woman to give him an erection, or at least an imaginary woman. His subconscious mind is imagining. So we are all lost if we don't understand men and women are different. And if you're educated, you don't understand that. 50% of educated women at 50 years old will be childless and alone. So don't go to get an education. 50%. And it's going to get worse. That's just the statistics. Because they're being taught at schools. I was kicked out of Stanford. I was kicked out of Harvard for talking about men and women are different. They had to have police to protect me. I'm the evil devil. I've been completely canceled in the year 2001. I'm never allowed on any national TV show. Why? I was on every show till the new narrative came in. They're selling you a lie. And when you believe a lie, what happens is you disconnect from the truth. The more you believe a lie, and you all know the pandemic was a big lie, parts of it, or the whole thing, whatever you want to look at. We know that there was never any research to show, they all agreed, we didn't have any research to say that you could spread it, that a mask would stop you from spreading it, or that if you got a vaccination, that protected everybody around you. So now people like me who are not vaccinated, I don't need vaccines, I'm healthy, I'm strong, I have an immune system. I'm living to way beyond hundreds. Why not? When you understand the secrets of male-female polarity, and when a man makes love on a regular basis with a woman he's completely connected to, he makes this is measurable now, this is just a married couple. This is not some rare Superman like me, it's a regular couple. A committed man will make, after making love with his wife, this hormone called prolactin. Prolactin is associated with long life. Prolactin is the secret hormone that keeps you healthy. Why? If you stay in a committed relationship for many, many years, statistically, you are the healthiest person on the planet. Married couples, heterosexual married couples, and sorry for the others, but everybody's got their own challenges in life, but I'm just saying, the research shows single people have more disease, they have shorter lives. Married couples live longer and have less disease and sickness. This is proven statistically. They have all those records. The next thing about married couples is people say to me, oh, well, that must be the happily married couples. I go, no, I don't know if there's any happily married couples because everybody's suffering on this planet. Are there happy single people? If they are, they're just lying. Everybody goes through ups and downs all the time. They have moments of happiness, moments of unhappiness, moments of suffering. Suffering single people, oh, I want to be married, I want to be in a relationship, or I don't want to be in a relationship because that would be terrible. No love in their hearts at all, or have some, of course. And then you have the people who are married. They have go ups and downs, these people getting divorces and whatever. But the people that think about divorce and they say, no, I'm going to stick in here. I made my promise. I'm going to suffer with you. This is like, I forget his name. He's very popular. When he talks about relationships, he talks about it's suffering. You have to just suffer through it. I don't suffer at all in my marriage, okay? But I've learned how to react differently to the potential suffering. It's just learning these skills to do it. If you don't know how to use a software, you're going to go crazy trying to use a computer. Well, I got Adobe. I don't know how to use Adobe, and I'm trying to use that. That's a whole software, and nobody's taught me that. It's very frustrating for me. Well, marriage, that's what relationships are for people, because relationships, this is the modern world. Women are on their male side. What you can get out of a man, if you have the skills, is to motivate him to bring you back to your female side. I talked about only one point today. which is if she's talking, men, you need to listen. Thank you. I should finish up.
Thank you.
So I want to talk about longevity. One is committed relationship, be loyal and faithful. Thank you. And the other is weight loss. Okay. Weight loss is so important for men with bellies are always producing estrogen all the time. What the fat does in the belly is in a man, it makes estrogen. And when estrogen levels go up, then when you eat food, it stores fat. And then you see these guys in the gym, they're working out and everything. They're 50 years old and they've got that belly and it doesn't go away. So I discovered when I got renewed on this is I was getting a belly. You can see me from last time. See, these are the pants I wore at the last one of these things. I've got like, 3 inches over there. Pants are falling down. Got to use a belt now. What is that about? Well, I read a research study from my last SoulSearch, which is Dr. Alvarado, something like that. He discovered a thing called protein pacing. So in 1 week, by tripling the protein that I eat, 4 meals a day, each meal has 35 grams of protein, 4 times a day. You certainly don't get hungry. And in 5 days, I lost 5 pounds, just amping up my protein and actually without any exercise because I'm not a gym person. Get this muscle here. What's going on here? I got muscles. See, when anybody goes on a diet, they lose muscle mass. And when you lose muscle mass, your metabolism slows down and now you can't lose weight. And then you go on another diet and you starve yourself for a little while and you lose muscle mass. It just burns up your muscle mass. So then without the muscle mass, your metabolism goes down. So people who diet keep going down and down. So this guy discovered just eat more, but eat more of the right things. So it's mainly protein in order to build your muscle mass up, restore your metabolism. Because what was happening for me is I could fast, I could not fast, I could not eat hardly any calories, and I still couldn't lose, now I'm at 15 pounds. I want to go back to my teenage weight, okay? So we'll see if I go. But 15 pounds in 2 weeks, just giving myself more protein and scheduling every 4 hours around that time. So I'm running out of time here. I would love for you can look him up, Dr. Alvarado. My team now is counseling people for free. If you want to be counseled on how to lose pounds in 1 month, to lose at least 20 pounds, It's all double-blind studies, These are peer-reviewed, not double-blind, peer-reviewed clinical studies. Everybody says, I'll help you lose weight, this pill will do it, this will do it. None of those are peer-reviewed. None of it. This is 3 major peer-reviewed studies by this guy. He's done over 25 studies, but he came across this discovery. Eat more protein. And when it does, now the truth is I'm not eating donuts on this diet. Okay, I'm not hungry. I just don't feel hungry at all. When you're really full, you don't think about those things. It's not like a mind trip. Literally, your body has so much energy. And I'm really against now the intermediate fasting thing where I was eating 1 meal a day for like 15 years. I just eat dinner. Okay, so you habituate to that and feel really good, stabilize your blood sugar, and you have lots of energy on that. But my metabolism was slowing down more and more. All I had to do was eat a bowl of ice cream and I'd gain 1.5 pounds or 2 because I had no metabolism to burn it off. It would just sit there. So now I can't eat ice cream. Well, this drink that I'm having is like ice cream. It's just all protein ice cream. It's fantastic. So if you want coaching on that, I'm going to pass out a form before we leave. I guess I don't know where it is, but they were going to give me a form to fill out. Who will run to the desk? And would you go get that form for me? Just tell them at the desk, John needs the form to fill out. And if you want coaching, and we need pens. If you want that free, just find out what it is. You don't have no obligation to do anything, but it's Ellen, who I'm working with. She's very beautiful. She knows all this stuff. She was a movie star before. She's an amazing lady. So we teamed up to help people. I'm so excited about this. What I know is that I'm dedicated to marriage and love, commitment. I've talked about that. I know in this class, I'll have 6 whole sessions. We'll go into great depth and all kinds of practical things you can do as a woman. There's a lot of single women in here. How do you get a man to do what you want him to do? There's an art to that. Now, the first thing I talked about is get a man to listen. You know how to get a man to listen? You say, I'm going to talk, and I don't want you to say anything. Just listen. I will feel better if you say nothing. Simple technique. What man is going to say, oh, I need to talk? And if he does, no, not now. I just need to vent what's going on. And guess what? I'm not going to complain about you at all. I'm just going to talk about problems in my life that have nothing to do with you. And if something seems like it does, I don't mean it to. Because that's why men get defensive. Is when you make a man the problem, he can't solve your problem because he is the problem. Never make the man the problem. Describe the problem and he wants to solve it. That's what men do. That's our worst communication skill. You start talking to a problem, we're going to say, oh, don't worry about that. Oh, that's not a big deal. So what's the point of this? Well, what do you want me to do? See, he wants to solve the problem. So you have to utilize that power you have. He wants to save your life. He wants to be the hero.
There's no one in the front. They're packing up.
Well, that's not it. This is the ladies that are running the show.
Yeah, I'm going to find them. I'll try again.
Try again. It's the beautiful blonde lady and the short lady, Tangela. They probably in the other class. They didn't do that. I'll give you, I have her phone number. I'll just give you her phone number. Yes.
Who's supposed to?
First of all, does anybody want to get that coaching from her? Does anybody want that? Raise your hand if you want that. So,
I want to know about it.
yeah, you want to know about it. Absolutely. You were going to feel so good. You got that nice belly.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's often called.
Let's read the back of this, our list.
Oh,
It's from the back.
oh, thank you. A woman figures these things out. Here,
I got an
and
instant list
if
here.
you want to go ahead and just
Whoever wants to
put
sign
your
up.
phone numbers down. If you want, try to write real neatly. Last time we had all this scribbling. So if you can't write neat, ask some woman to write for you. Or usually they
What do you
can.
want, emails?
No, I don't want emails, just phone numbers. Your name and your phone number, and she'll call you. Last time we couldn't read any of the emails.
I have a phone number to sign up for your seminars.
Do you have a phone number?
I do not, I used to, something happened. I
Okay.
know everything is online, but I remember talking to Helena.
Yeah, Helena.
Right now.
Okay, let me give you Helena's number. If you want, this is Helena's number. You want to sign up for the seminar,
Yes.
what's her number? There. It's 415.
Wait.
Okay. And by the way, any of you today want to take my seminar in August, it's half price for you. And for you, it's free because you've taken it before. So you get free. Yes, you're here. All my graduates get it for free. It's wonderful. I'm happy to help them.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. So
I'm going to take
you
it
should
for
come for
Friday.
free too. And your friends can come for half price. Half price. It's $500, but you come for half price. That's $250, which makes it what it was back when I started teaching about 30 years ago. That's what it used to be. Okay. Okay.
415.
That was a 4-1. That's Helena, my assistant. Okay. How did I get to that before? Let me just do this again. Okay. Well, you think I'd be more prepared for this? This is going to happen. Okay, here it is. Helena. And here is info. And 415-318.
Yes.
So that's 318-9456.
318.
318-9456.
What is her name?
Helena.
Alina.
Helena.
Halina.
Yes.
And what is her last name?
Popko.
Yes, Popko.
Popko. She's from your country. Where you're from, Romania?
Poland.
Poland. She's from, like Polish relatives. It's a whole. She's like you. Yeah. People sound different from different parts of the world.
Like a website or something like that.
I do have a website. You can also sign up at the website marsvenus.com. Like under events, you get all the information of it. marsvenus.com. You have her phone number. And then also, if you want to get coaching, Ellen, I have Helena as my assistant. Ellen is my weight loss coach, if you'd like to use that. Now, what I promised you is it's a 30-day program. You will lose if you need to lose weight. And not if you don't lose weight, you just build more muscle mass. I mean, it's amazing. I have way more muscle mass. I'm stronger than I was before in just 2 weeks. But you will you'll lose at least 20 pounds, which is wonderful, by eating more. It's an amazing, it's fantastic. Okay, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. Okay, that's my female side. Happy, excited, girly. Nothing like losing weight. You feel lighter, you feel more free, you feel more confident. You know, when you can't lose weight, you feel powerless in life. Okay, any other questions about all this stuff? Everybody's got your information? What's that?
This is for the
Yes.
lose weight.
About getting
Yes.
energy.
Yeah, that's to get, way more energy, way more energy. See, energy comes when metabolism increases. Protein increases metabolism. That's what it does. And when you fast or you diet, your metabolism always goes down and then it sets there. And so then your body doesn't able to lose, you'll eat food again, food will come in your body and your ability to burn that fuel becomes even less and less. It takes muscle mass to do it. And who would have thought eating more protein? And again, the shakes have very little, I'll tell you, you're drinking lots of.
Is it vegan or?
No, it's not vegan.
It's whey.
It's whey,
Whey protein.
but here's the thing.
Wait.
We have the most inventive program with whey that Swiss scientists figured this out. If you take undenatured whey protein, that means not heavily pasteurized, so it's still alive, and you put it in hot water, the shake itself, that I recommend, you could do it with others too, but you've got your whey protein and you've got enzymes that got the Nobel Prize for discovering these enzymes that break down proteins. They're different enzymes. And you put the shake in the hot water, 100 degrees or more, you put it in the shake, that activates the enzymes, and then it incubates for 45 minutes. So it looks like this much shake and it like rises up. It's all cooking itself. So what you're getting is the protein. See, protein is like a walnut shell. Your digestion has to break it down to pull out the amino acids to build muscle mass and to make brain chemicals. So it's a matter of getting amino acids. When you eat plant proteins, you're getting 10% of the amino acids. That's all you get. When you have protein shakes, you're getting 15 to 20%. When you're eating egg whites or steak or meats, you're getting 30%. That's all you're getting. And the rest has to be thrown away by your body. And it's also toxic. It's the die-off of it. When you incubate these shakes, it's now been tested, 91% of the protein converts into amino acids. It's bioavailable, which is why your brain works so much better, because you want to get the amino acids into your brain. And I know what I'm talking about with amino acids because 25 years ago, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I went to a clinic in Mexico, which gave me amino acid therapy. And the amino acid therapy cured up my Parkinson's and had to keep doing it for a while. And that's when I really got into protein shakes, which is, even then I was taking an enzyme active protein shake, but I wasn't fully incubated. It worked. Even that did it. And it worked for any alcoholic. It works for any ADD type thing, helping all these situations because you're getting what your brain needs. But then when they discovered 91% of absorption, this is a big, big breakthrough. And, you just have to prepare your drink 45 minutes before you can drink it. If you don't have the 45 minutes, if you only have 10, at least do 10. But I know I want that 91%. I've got an aging brain here. I'm going to keep it working and focused and so forth. I think I did a pretty good job today. How'd I do? Let me know when you're clapping.
Thank you.
I'm so excited you hung around. So with a small group like this, any other questions, I'm happy to answer anything and people can wander out as I'm answering.
So the shakes, you
Yes.
take one or how many shakes?
What you do is you start, they'll give you coaching on it because there's
Okay.
different variations for people.
Okay.
But it looks a bit like this, which is within the first 45 minutes of waking up. What I do is I get up, I go put the shake in the water, and then I go do all my stuff, and then I've got my shake, and I put it in a blender, and I drink it, put ice in. First it's warm because it incubates. Then I add ice to it, makes it like a delicious vanilla shake. There's also a chocolate shake. And in the beginning, it's very bland because it's super low sugar. And also when it incubates, the sugar that's in it is used up because sugar is used up in the incubation process. So it's like another aspect of it is your brain adapts to saying, wow, this shake is making me feel good and there's no sugar in it. See, most of us are trained, sugar makes us feel good, but then it drops us. So I'll tell you a few things for me. I wanted to get another life insurance policy, but it was ridiculous because my blood pressure, even though I was in intermittent fasting for all these years, I'm very healthy. My blood pressure was like 160 over 80, and sometimes 170 over 80. I couldn't understand because I'm a relaxed person. It was all because I wasn't eating. Okay, you've got to eat to keep your blood pressure right there. You know, my heart, everything's working hard to get everything working because there's no fuel in my body. So after 2 weeks, I tested my blood sugar twice, and it was 132 over 70, and I did it this morning. It was 128. No, it was 120 over 70, something like that, all the way down to 120. It's like, whoa, all I did was get food in my body, build my muscle mass, increase my metabolism. Because, you know, I remember my mother was my age. I said, what's it like getting older? You know, I have her genes and everything. And she was lying on her bed and she says, everything's wonderful. It's just don't have the same energy I had. And it was interesting. This last year, I was starting to drop in my energy level. I guess this is what happened to Mom. So that also motivated me. It's like, I understood. Not eating will lower your metabolism, controlling lots of dieting and everything. We need to do the opposite, which is eat lots of protein. So it looks like first thing in the morning, then 4 to 5 hours later, another shake, 4 to 5 hours, then eat lunch or something, then have 4 to 5 hours later, another shake. And then you can have dinner if you want, or usually I'm not feeling hungry, but sometimes I'll just have some steak and it just tastes good. And then 1 hour, this is the big one, 1 hour before bed. Everybody says don't eat before bed.
Yeah, right.
Okay, don't eat. This is the best time. You put pure protein into your body. Protein is what you lose 3 pounds in the night. Now check it out. I've been losing. It's like during the day you're just busy, then you're sleeping. Your body is regenerating itself. It needs that protein, and so that's the key to this. And I remember my mother used to take collagen before she'd go to bed, and that was that form of protein. So there's other aspects of this depending on how fast you want to go. If you want to go really fast, then you do 5 days of building up. It's called building it up, building it up, building it. Then go 2 days with this bone broth and a lot of adaptogens. So it's like a hot soup that you got a hot soup and you don't feel hungry at all. I know fasting is scary for people, but they had never fasted after all of that. All this protein and muscles in your body, suddenly it's very easy. And then if you're fasting and you're really hungry, just have a shake, not a big deal. You know, this is amazing, enjoyable process where you just go, wow. And Tangela was here. She's done it for a week and she lost 5 pounds, okay, in 1 week doing the protein stacking. I call it protein stacking, but Dr. Arciela calls it protein pacing. He says the right times, but the right times are about every 4 to 5 hours. Because if you go too long, then what happens if you go into starvation mode, and you don't want to go into a starvation mode. So you want to just satisfy yourself. So just amping up the protein. Amazing. So she'll help you with that.
Like a salad before.
So a lot of questions come up for people. And so what we do, that's why you need a coach and you need someone that you're talking to and you say, I'm going to do this. And you know, that commitment makes a lot happen. So what was anything else? Any relationship question? Okay.
I'm curious if you're working on your next book.
Say that again.
Are you working on a new book?
Yes, I have a new book. It's called Biohack. I don't know the title of it yet, but it's a book. It might just be the name of this one. But in the book, it's filled with teaching all about the power of commitment. Nobody's yet written about that. Okay, I started it 15 years ago, and now the research has come out to back up my idea of this hormone that gets produced. They found this hormone in little mice that are monogamous. Okay, these little creatures that are monogamous, they have a lot of this particular hormone. And then it turns out that married men make this hormone. So then I started talking about this is the monogamy hormone. And then we start finding out, okay, what causes you to create it? If you do porn, if you do these things, you lose it. It's like starting over each time. What you want to do is build it up. When you can build it up, like for many years, then it's very easy to practice the kind of making love, the top level of enlightened sexuality, which is where the man becomes multi-orgasmic without any control. He never needs to ejaculate. So this means he's available at any moment that she wants is available. And when a man has that much potency, sexual potency, it keeps a woman's estrogen up. Every time a man ejaculates, it kind of knocks her potency down, knocks his potency down, then they kind of build it up. That's why you have to keep having regular sex. I mean, there's so much to this, and that will be what that book is, because generally women can't feel desire for sex unless their estrogen levels double. It's ironic. It's like if a man has low testosterone, low male hormones, very easy for him to desire sex with a stranger. Very hard for him to desire sex with his wife. So I'm going to explain the biology of that mystery, because what prolactin does, it inhibits a man's ability to be interested in sex. So he doesn't want to wander straight. Nature did this to men. If you commit to a woman, make love to her to make a baby, a family, it takes away your sex drive. However, there's other factor in it, which is a man is making testosterone, more testosterone than a woman, and a woman's making more estrogen than a man. That's called polarity. Now, our biology is that way. We're supposed to make at least 10 times more testosterone just to feel good than a woman needs. And a woman needs to make 10 times more estrogen just to feel happy than a man, 10 times more than a man. Then for her to feel sexual desire, I mean, literally her body is longing to be penetrated. We're not talking about addiction to clitoral stimulation. We're talking the real thing. And then the real thing is multi-orgasmic. For her to have that much estrogen and testosterone allows her to be multi-orgasmic. And this is all biology. They measured all this stuff. and so how do you do that? And what do you do in a relationship where you're trying to figure out with your husband when you're going to have sex? Because if he actually says, do you want to have sex? Well, you look at your body, not really, but if it's something I can do for you, okay. Most men say they don't even want that. We're so enlightened. I don't want to have sex with somebody who don't want to have sex with me. So then his sexuality gets suppressed because her estrogen levels aren't high enough. But when he knows what to do outside the bedroom, and she knows what to do to get him to do those things outside the bedroom. And I just gave you one hack, which is just talk about other things in your life other than him. It's usually when women are so stressed, that's when they need to talk. And it all gets projected onto him. For fun, since you're here, we're having a good time. I'm going to give you an example of what's called displacement. So what goes on, and the more you're on your male side, the more you will displace your negative feelings onto your husband or your male figure in your life. But I'm going to give you an example. I think everybody would love this example. A long time ago, my dog at the ranch, we had a ranch, I don't have it anymore, but the old dog had a bone. I gave the dog a bone, and now it's time to leave. Dog would not leave because he wanted to hold on to that bone, right? You don't take a bone away from a dog. Well, nobody told me that. So I reached in to take I said, come on, let's just go. This is my dog I love. I'm going to take the bone, and it drew blood. Now, ironically, with my Facebook page at the time, I told that story, and I said, should I kill the dog, or should I just not give the dog a bone? And 90% of the people said, kill the dog. Because that's the standard thing. If a dog draws blood, you kill it. Because it's dangerous. No, you just don't give the dog a bone. I think that about everything. So the next story here is that day when that dog bit me, it created a physiological response that I'd never had before, which was intense rage inside of me. I'd been penetrated, blood was coming out of me. And I took that dog and I threw him in the backseat of the car, and I'm sitting in the car. I look at my wife. I mean, I'm riled up, okay, like I've never been before. And she's just real quiet. And I said, you know, honey, I feel like I just want to take that dog and throw it out the window. And she just nodded her head and says, yes, I understand. Now imagine if she said, well, John, you know, you should never take a bone out of a dog. That's what happens. What would have happened in that moment?
You got mad.
That rage, I feel like I'm going to throw her out the window. And that's real. That's called real displacement. Maybe you can relate to some experience in your past. It just, boom, somebody wants to defend the person you're upset with. Now you're upset with that person. That's called displacement. And because the world is so stressful for women, more so than men, this is another biological test that was done. Women in the workplace, if they're earning money, or they're more independent, and the independent women measure their cortisol levels. They're on average, this is not every woman, some women walk around flying and floating, okay, but on average, their cortisol levels are twice as high as the men's in the same situations. Then when those women come home, their cortisol levels, whether they're married or not, their cortisol levels double. You all experience that. It's like it's the second shift. You're doing this shift. You're designed to do this shift. Now, do we have to go back to that? Well, some fortunate people could, but we don't have to, because it's all a matter of the hormones. You're making male hormones. If you're in your brain, you're anticipating coming home to a circumstance that will boost your estrogen. Like, let's say you have a husband, is coming home who actually knows how to treat you with respect. And you can train men to do that, by the way. Men have no background to how to respect women. We're all taught you respect somebody who makes a lot of money, who are stronger and bigger than you. Now, women are the ones who need respect. Men need respect, but women need way more. And they used to be men would bow down to women. Women were the magic being. The goddess religions were all about worshiping the woman. This is what it was. But then now let's worship the God the Father. So we went from one extreme to the other extreme. We want to find that balance of masculine and feminine, where it's not embarrassing for men to worship a woman. They are the source of love. They gave us life. But for him to be able to do that, he has to get something to keep his testosterone up. So if you complain about him, he's down. If you correct him, he's down. If you boss him around, he's down. Testosterone knocks down. So how do you control and manage the person in your life? You have to manage a man. Because if he's stepping on your feet, you can't have him continuing to step on your foot. You're gonna have to go, ow, and he does it again, ow, ow. Now you're yelling and screaming and complaining. So you have to know how to ask him, oh, honey, would you not do that? And know how to do it. I give you the art of how to ask a man to do things in a way where he'll go, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. So easy to do when you understand the way men think and feel. You just don't. You have a whole different reality. And so we are complicated to you, but we're super simple. A man can define himself as super simple. A woman could never define a man. And a woman cannot define herself as super simple. And she's not super simple. If you look at chocolate ice cream, it is the most complicated flavor in existence. And vanilla is the least complicated flavor. Men are vanilla and women are chocolate. These are realities. This is a polarity. And yet to use a software is very complicated. It becomes very easy once you understand the software. And for men, super easy. So if there was like a couple, like even this course coming up in August, there's a couple who says, only one can come because they have a child and they feel they need to keep the child. I said, okay, who should it be? The woman. Women have the power in relationships. This is it. You were designed, you give birth to us. Every man, when he wants to leave a relationship, he says the same thing. No matter what I do, it doesn't make her happy. I just want her to be happy. Because I point out to him, you don't know what to do. You think you're doing the right stuff. You're overworking. You're overdoing. You're not doing any of the simple stuff that a woman needs. And if I could summarize it in a simple concept, what are the things you did to win her over? They were not that complicated. It was very simple. You hold her hand, you tell her how much you love her, you say she's beautiful, you look at her, you desire her, all those things. That's what she needs always. It doesn't take a lot of energy to do the little things that I point out. And some are very creative. You never heard of them before. They're called biohacks. The second one is, what can she do? Now, it's not so much what she does, because it's all kind of automatic in the beginning. Because in the beginning, there's newness. When there's newness, it produces dopamine in both men and women. Dopamine in a man raises testosterone. If a woman feels safe, because this man has got a lot of testosterone focused at her, wanting to please her, if she feels safe, then that newness stimulates high levels of estrogen. But that dopamine is temporary. It's a drug. It will go away. It gives you a glimpse of what I have in my life because I have these relationship skills. If I did not practice them, it would all go away in a week. Literally, I have to do these things so I feel like that guy when I fell in love, when I knelt before my wife and said, I want to dedicate my life to you. Will you marry me? And this is a feeling that men cannot access except through women, except through doing things that will raise a woman's estrogen, will raise his estrogen. And if we don't have that, what you have is men that are not committed, men that are grumpy, irritable. You can't ask them to do anything. They resist everything. You got women who have build up lists and lists and lists of resentment. He didn't do this, he doesn't do this, because you have a super memory. Men don't have a super memory like you. When I'm under stress, my memory goes away. If it's adrenaline causes men to stop feeling, remembering, and just focus on one thing. For women, when there's adrenaline being produced in their body, there's 8 times more blood flow compared to a man to the emotional memory. 8 times more. So you're going to remember every bad thing that ever happened if you're in a stress state. And at that time is where men have to learn, if you're going to talk to me, I need to duck and dodge and not take anything personally. It's like, you know, I was a karate kid when I was younger. I was in magazines for learning karate. So you have to learn the art of fighting with your partner without punching them afterwards, but giving them a big hug. But what women can do is, because men are not karate masters yet, is they have to learn how to communicate about other problems, and don't ask them to say, and don't solve them. I just need to talk about this, and then I'll feel better. And as you feel better, your estrogen levels go up. Your brain does not focus on problems. Your brain only focuses on problems. One is, or over focuses on problems, because that will raise your estrogen back up and feel good, because it is a drug. So it's counseling for many women, it's just their weekly drug. Unless their therapist helps them realize that 90% of the upset that they feel in their body has nothing to do with your partner. That's another thing I will teach in this 6-week class, is to understand the 90-10 principle. Is that your responses to your partner, if they're stress producing, 90% of it has to do with other things in your past. And to be able to process those things in your past frees you from having those reactions in the present time. If there's a reason, there's always reasons to be upset at your partner. But is there a reason to be that upset with your partner? Well, there are reasons for that. They have nothing to do with your partner, but other things. And that's understanding the displacement of what goes on when our partner triggers us. It will bring up something from our past. And when does that happen the most? If you have sex. When you have sex, you bring up the past, because there's no other time in your life as an adult where you can have the childlike feelings. Although they're not exactly, because you're an adult being sexual, but you feel love. That's why couples call each other baby, honey, sweetie, la 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 la. See, it's it's the doorway to access the inner child. Okay, it's in. What did Jesus say? He said, "Be like a child, you enter the kingdom of heaven." And that's what making enlightened sexuality, making love, can be. A visit to heaven every week. What a great thing. Well, you're just my fans. You're sitting here forever. So I'm gonna finish up. I want to thank everybody online that's indulged and listened to this for all this time. I hope we're inviting you to join our soul search, inviting you to contact marsvenus.com, and we have contact us if you're also interested in getting coaching on how you can lose 20 pounds easy by more food in your body, more protein in your body in 30 days. So please contact us. And also for my seminars, if you can't make the August seminar, come to another one. It'll be online. Come to SoulSearch meetings and you get half price on my seminars. So I look forward to seeing you here. Thank you all. It's been a real pleasure to be with you. And before you speak, double it. You got to give me some.